All rise. Lord Willoughby. The International Criminal Court is now in session. Lieutenant of Court Penal International, 8 word. Please be seated. Board versus one.
Thank you very much. Court officer, please call the case.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Court officer, thank you, Your Honor. Situation in the Republic of Kenya. In the case, the prosecutor versus William Samuel Ruto and Joshua Arap Sang, ICC 0109-0111. We are in open session.
Thank you. Appearances, please.
Morning, Your Honors. Anton Steinberg for the prosecution. With me, Lorenzo Pugliatti, Lucio Garcia, Regina Weiss, Peter Schotzman, and Grace Go. If I can just indicate that Mr. Pugliatti will be taking the next witness and addressing the court on the in-court protective measures.
Good morning, Mr. President, Your Honors. Arslan Arentzig and James Mavira for victims. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. President, Your Honours. Miss Lee Laurie, Mr. Esafal, Miss Shalini J. Raj, Miss Grace Sullivan, and myself for Mr. Ruto. Miss Laurie will be taking the next witness.
Good morning, Mr. President, Your Honours. Today, Mr. Katwa Keegan is not here, so it's myself, it's Logan Hambrick, Honor Lanham, and of course, Mr. Sang.
Thank you. We will go into private session and discuss measures in relation to this witness, to the next witness, witness 469.
That's correct.
Nous sommes en audience publique, Monsieur le Président.
We're in open session, Your Honour.
Thank you very much. Can you please administer the oath or the solemn declaration to the witness?
Natamka kwa dhati ya kwamba nitasema ukweli.
I solemnly declare that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the courtroom. When I welcome you, I am welcoming you for joining us because we were here before you arrived, but this is very much your courtroom as well. And we want you to feel very at home and at ease, very much so during your testimony. You are here to help us find out the truth about what happened and who was responsible for the post-election violence that happened in Kenya. It requires asking questions to get at the truth. And thank you for coming to join us and for agreeing to take those questions. The lawyers in the case will be the ones asking you most of the questions. The first set of questions, or the first lawyer rather, the first lawyer that will ask you questions will be Mr. Pugliatti, who's a prosecutor. He will ask you questions in examination in chief, and when he finishes asking you questions, then Ms. Lowry, who's one of the lawyers for Mr. Ruto, would also ask you questions, and it may be that Ms. Bausman or Mr. Keegan-Katwa, representing Mr. Sang, would also have some questions. Mr. Naratsa saying you've not applied, have you?
Oh, yeah.
And you will not be applying.
We will not be applying. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Naratsa is counsel for victims, but in this case he has not applied to ask you questions. So the only lawyers who will be asking you questions while you are here with us would be Mr. Pugliati, Ms. Lowry, and either Ms. Bausman or Mr. Keegan-Katwa would ask you questions. There may also be questions from the bench, from the judges to you. In all of this, we work through questions and answers. So how you help us is to listen carefully to the questions you will be asked. Try very much and very hard to understand the question that has been asked of you. If you don't understand it, it may not be your own fault. It may well be because the lawyer or the judge asking you the question has not framed it properly in a way that is intelligible for you or for anybody. Ask them to repeat if you don't understand the question, and the question will be repeated. And once you understand the question, then please answer it truthfully and briefly. You think about the information you want to give in that answer, that response to the question. Just give that information very briefly that you haven't asked about with that particular question, and then stop and wait for the next question. One of the reasons why it is important for you to only think about the question you've been asked in that moment and answer it, apart from helping us move the proceeding quickly so that you don't answer or give information that may not be needed for the case by adding more. There is also a concern about your own identity. The prosecutor asked us to give you some protective measures so that when you're testifying, your identity will not be revealed to members of the public, and we granted that request. That is why we're not using your real name. We're only referring to you by pseudonym, Witness 569. Now, if you start adding information to your answer that is not strictly necessary, or the lawyer has not called for in his question, or if you start talking about something else that you think it may be of interest, there is a risk that you may give away information that will reveal to the members of the public who you are. So that's why it is key to listen to the question and answer only that question. The lawyers in the courtroom know that you are protected. Your identity is not to be revealed. And when they ask you questions, they keep that in mind. They will not ask you questions that will make you reveal your identity when we are in the public session. Such questions may be asked of you, but we go into what we call private session. And I will come to you, I'll tell you when we get into that later. So the point I'm making is please listen carefully to the question, understand the question, and answer only that question. And then once you answer it, you stop there and wait for the lawyer to ask you the next question. Try not to guess at answers to questions. Give only information you know of. Try not to guess. Let the lawyer try also not to draw inferences if it can be avoided. Inferences, the usual mathematics, 1 + 1 = 2. Your task or your job is to give us the 1 + 1. If that is what the answer calls for, do not worry about what it amounts to in the end. That is for the lawyers to argue about later. Just give us the raw material and leave out the inferences if we can avoid that. We are also more interested in information that you yourself, or we're interested in what you yourself observed personally. Less so in what you heard from other people. If it is not necessary to give us information you heard from other people, try avoiding them and limit yourself to only what you know and what you observed. If you are giving us information, if you deem it necessary to tell us what somebody else told you, always try to make it clear that this is what you heard from somebody else, you did not hear it yourself. But we'll try to avoid what we call hearsay, being information you heard from other people. Now, sometimes when you're asked questions, sometimes when witnesses are asked questions, because all that you're hearing are questions, it may get irritating sometimes, especially when you feel that you've said the same thing over and over again and you're still being asked questions about it. Do not feel that way. The lawyers are doing their job. If they're asking you questions over and over, there may be a reason why they're doing that. Now, we are also alive to that kind of problem. We will not let lawyers pointlessly ask you questions repeatedly that you've already answered. But try and answer your question without worrying about whether or not the question is pointless and things of that nature. Also try not to concern yourself with a question being unfair to you. I want to reassure you that the purpose of the courtroom is not to have a witness come and sit and get abused with questions, or people use the guise of questioning to abuse witnesses. That doesn't happen in this courtroom. It will not happen to you. We are here to make sure that doesn't happen. So I need to reassure you particularly about that. So concentrate on the information that you need to give and just give that information. Lawyers have not abused witnesses so far in this courtroom, and they will not. Again, I want to reassure you, don't worry about that matter. Now, back to the protection measures I was talking to you about earlier. I already talked about it. You are testifying under a pseudonym. You are not to reveal your name when we are in the public session. You're also not to tell us where you live when we are in the public session, or give us the names of your relatives or close friends when we're in the public session, or where they live as well. It may also be the case that there's a story you may know that only you or you and a very limited number of people could be the only ones who were aware of that story. But somebody already knows that you know about that story. It may be that when you start testifying in public about such unique events, those who are listening to the public testimony or the public session of these proceedings, when they hear that story being told, might start thinking it is you or get to you. We don't want you to tell that sort of story, those sorts of unique stories in public session. We will be interested in them still, that sort of story. But when we go into private session, we will call for you to tell us that kind of story. So if a question is asked of you that may make you reveal your identity or identity of people around you or where you live, or unique stories that may reveal your identity, you can tell us that, and then we will go into private session so you can give that sort of information. We're still interested in that. Now, public session and private session I've been talking about. When we're in public session, it means the members of the public who will hear you, who are sitting in the public gallery, or who are watching the proceedings by television. But when we are in private session, it's only people in this courtroom that will hear you tell those. So we can receive identifying information in private session. And when we're in private session, you will know. The court officer will announce, and then you'll be told that. And also there's a button in front of you. There's something there, see, there's a gray thing that it's red. I see you're looking at it. The red light is on it. Can you point it out for me, madam? Thank you. So it is now red because we are in public session. When we go into private session, it will turn to green. When it is turned to green, then it is safe. Green means safe for you to give us identifying information. But when it is red, it means you may not do that. It is now red because we are in public session. So those are the matters of substance that you need to keep in mind. There's another aspect of your work with us that will help us greatly. That is making sure that what you say is recorded in the transcript of these proceedings. And to help us do that, we have colleagues who are doing the interpretation work up there. You're speaking in Swahili, it will get interpreted into French and into English for us to hear. And the same thing when you're asked a question, it will go again in English, the same way it comes back to Swahili to you. They're doing the interpretation, and other colleagues are up there who are recording what you are saying, what the interpretation feeds them. Now, you see they're not in the courtroom. They cannot hear you if the microphone is not turned on. But the problem is when more than one person is speaking at the same time, it creates an overlap that makes it difficult for them to understand what is being said. Sometimes impossible because only one channel is going to them and two people are blocking it at the same time. So for that reason, it's important for only one person to speak at once. When the lawyers are asking you questions, for us to have one person speaking at the same time, you will wait until they've finished their question completely, and then there's a little pause that you need to observe. We call it 5 seconds pause. You count to 5 in your mind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can even breathe in and out completely when the question has finished before you start answering. So when you do that, that allows a gap so that there is no risk of overlapping. That way, the interpreters can hear you clearly and interpret properly. It's important that we do that. And I know that's a lot of information I've given you, but we will proceed, and there may be a need to remind you from time to time. Thank you very much once again for joining us. Mr. Pugliati.
Thank you, Mr. President. As my opening questions concern the personal background of the witness, I'd ask at this early juncture to go into private session for those questions.
Mr. Pugliati, you were not here yesterday, but I say that as a standard procedure, counsel should indicate how long they want to stay in private session, so that, again, as members of the public, we don't want them to be wondering when are they coming out of private session.
I'm grateful for that reminder, and I should say that there are a number of moments in the testimony of this witness we anticipate where private sessions will be necessary, so I will incorporate that going forward. Regarding this session requested at this moment, approximately 15 minutes.
All right, private session.
And perhaps while that's taking place, I would also seek the assistance of the court management to put the prepared PIS sheet before the witness.
Nous sommes en audience publique, Monsieur le Président.
The court officer, we are in open session.
Now, witness, at the time of the post-election violence, what ethnic groups lived in Kimumu?
Tulikuwa mchanganyiko.
Answer. There were Kikuyu, Kalenjin, Turkana, Luo, and Luya people. There were many ethnic groups at that place.
And which group was in the majority?
Wenye walikuwa wengi ni Wakalenjin.
Answer. The majority was formed by the Kalenjin and the Kikuyu.
Was it the same numbers of Kalenjin and Kikuyu, or was one group larger than the other?
Wakalenjin walikuwa wengi kuliko
Answer. The Kalenjin were greater in number than the Kikuyu.
Do you remember at the time in 2007 who the mayor of Kimumu was?
Sikumbuki ni nani alikuwa meya wa.
Answer. I don't remember who the mayor of Kimumu was in 2007. However, I do remember the mayor of the municipality of Eldoret in 2008.
And who was that?
Alikuwa anaitwa Sami Ruto. Alichaguliwa wakati 2008 kuwa meya wa Eldoret Municipal. Na the same, yeye ndiye alikuwa kansula wa Kimumu. Kwa hivyo alikuwa na cheo mara mbili.
A message from the interpreters. Could the witness be asked to repeat her reply?
Can you ask the question again?
Witness, you said that you remember who the mayor of the municipality of Eldoret was in 2008. And I asked you who that was. Who was the mayor of municipality of Eldoret in 2008?
Answer. The person who was elected mayor of Eldoret, or the municipality of Eldoret, was Samuel Ruto.
And do you know what ethnic group he belonged to?
Answer. He was Kalenjin.
And did you know him or know of him prior to 2008?
Nilikuwa namuona wakati wa campaign.
Answer. I used to see him during the campaign. And when he was elected councillor for Kimumu, I saw him on the road celebrating his victory.
Your Honour, I note the time. I wonder if this would be a good moment to rise.
Yes, it will be. Witness, we will be taking our morning break now for 30 minutes. We will be reconvening in court at 11:30. So the court officers will usher you out of the courtroom for the morning break. And we go into closed session now.